Who was Nimrod? The first king who tried to defy heaven? What if one man changed the course of human history, and almost nobody remembers his true story? His name appears only a few times in the Bible. No long biography, no detailed account of his life, just a handful of verses. Yet for thousands of years, kings feared him. Ancient traditions transformed him into a giant. Some called him the world's first emperor. Others claimed he built the greatest city humanity had ever seen. And according to later traditions, he became the ruler who dared to challenge heaven itself. His name was Nimrod. But here's the real mystery. If Nimrod truly founded the first great empire after the flood, why do we know so little about him? Why does the Bible mention him so briefly? And why have historians spent centuries arguing over whether he was a real king, a legendary hero, or a symbol hiding someone else entirely? Tonight, we begin one of the oldest investigations in history. Not into a forgotten city, not into a hidden treasure, but into a man whose shadow may still stretch across civilization itself. Our journey begins nearly 5,000 years ago, in a land the Bible calls Shinar. Today, we know it by another name, Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This fertile region witnessed the birth of cities, writing, agriculture, law, trade, and the earliest civilizations known to mankind. It is here that the Bible introduces one of its most mysterious figures. In Genesis chapter 10, shortly after the story of Noah's flood, a genealogy lists the descendants who spread across the earth. Most names pass by with only a single mention, but suddenly, the narrative pauses, almost as if it wants us to notice someone special. It says, Cush was the father of Nimrod, who became a mighty one on the earth. That single sentence changed history. Unlike every other name in the genealogy, Nimrod receives additional attention. The text continues, he was a mighty hunter before the Lord. At first glance, this sounds simple. Perhaps he was merely a great hunter. But the original Hebrew wording has puzzled scholars for centuries. The phrase, before the Lord, can also imply standing in open defiance, acting boldly in God's presence, or becoming famous throughout the world. Which meaning did the author intend? No one knows for certain, and the mystery only deepens. Genesis then tells us something extraordinary. The beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. Notice what the text does not say. It does not call him a tribal chief. It does not describe him as the leader of a small village. It calls him the founder of a kingdom. Not just one city, but several. Babel, Erech, Akkad. Names that would later become some of the most influential places in human history. For many historians, this raises an astonishing possibility. Could Nimrod represent the emergence of the world's first empire? Long before Rome, long before Egypt reached its greatest power, long before Alexander the Great? If so, why is his story almost completely absent? To answer that question, we must leave the Bible for a moment and enter the world of archaeology. During the 19th century, European archaeologists began excavating the deserts of modern-day Iraq. What they uncovered shocked the world. Buried beneath layers of sand lay the ruins of enormous cities, massive temples, towering ziggurats, royal palaces, and hundreds of thousands of clay tablets covered with strange wedge-shaped symbols. These symbols became known as cuneiform. Once deciphered, they revealed civilizations far older than anyone had imagined. Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, names that sounded strangely familiar because they echoed the very places connected with Nimrod in Genesis. Could this simply be coincidence? Or was the biblical writer preserving memories of one of humanity's earliest urban civilizations? Even today, scholars remain divided. Some argue Nimrod was inspired by powerful Mesopotamian rulers such as Sargon of Akkad, who united many cities under a single authority. Others believe he reflects several ancient kings merged into one legendary figure over centuries of storytelling. And some suggest Nimrod is symbolic rather than historical, a literary representation of humanity's growing ambition after the flood. But regardless of which theory is correct, one fact remains undeniable. The world described in Genesis was changing forever. Small farming communities were disappearing. Cities were rising. Governments were forming. Power was becoming centralized. And somewhere within that transformation, a man named Nimrod entered history, or perhaps legend. But this is only where the mystery begins, because in the next chapter, the Bible introduces a city that would become one of the most famous and controversial places in human history, a city called Babel. Was Nimrod its true founder? And did humanity really attempt to build a tower reaching toward heaven? The answers may be even stranger than the legend itself.